On today's episode of the Glue Guys, wow, Brian, emergency pod.
We did it.
My gosh.
We did it. We really did.
Paul Millsap, someone that Brian has been talking about for, literally since the NBA began.
I have his name tattooed on my ribs, Mike. I didn't tell you that.
He is joining your Brooklyn Nets. His agent tells Shams Charania of The Athletic. And this is an emergency pod. Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, Netsdaily.com. Hop into the Discord. Link for the Discord is in our Twitter bio. We're on TikTok.
YouTube. It's also in the YouTube description down below.
Yeah. We're everywhere. We're a multimedia monster.
Coastal media elite.
How are you, Brian? So good to see your face.
I've been good. Yeah, I've been good. This is the slow time of year. You don't expect bombs to be dropping to get shelled with bombs like it's WWI, trench warfare. But we're getting shelled.
You're going to go for the first one. I was going to go to London bombings. I was thinking that's what I was going to go. But then that would make, unfortunately, Woj and Shams Charania the Nazis, and I don't want to make a Nazi comparison this early in the show.
You sure don't, Mike, and let's not. But so we're getting
Shams is a colleague of mine, so
yeah,
I will not say
even
that.
better. No, so we're getting shelled with news, Mike, and it was so unexpected. I think both of us were doing what we do in the off season, drinking virgin pina coladas on the beach, and we had to get rested off our beach chairs, and here we are.
I actually think a virgin pina colada is worse for you than a fully unvirginized.
You think so? You think there's more?
I would think the alcohol is better for you than the actual concoction that makes pina colada.
Of pina colada mix,
the awful sugar.
Maybe.
Breaking news. This is an official emergency pod. Breaking glass as I speak. Paul Millsap of the Denver Nuggets has agreed to sign with your Brooklyn Nets. Brian, right off the cuff, tell me how excited you are. Are you through the moon?
Well, I'd kind of moved on, to be honest. With you, so it's a little strange to be back in the position of being stoked, but I'm stoked. Yeah, I'm super happy. I think this makes our off season just undeniably a solid A to A plus.
Amazing.
There's really nothing else you can dream for. There's people talking about LaMarcus Aldridge and stuff like that, but I think that this really, having just a dedicated post defender is the missing piece. That's sort of where Paul Millsap does most of his damage at this stage in his career. He's getting on in years, Mike, as they say.
Yeah, he's quite old at this point.
But he's still dynamic. He can, he does his little elbow jumper boy stuff, which is, a lot of what you were going to get from LaMarcus Aldridge. Weird to compare them to, but I feel like I have to because that was...
No, there's a comparison point there, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, in general, I feel very positive about the signing.
I do. I'm sure it's for the minimum. I think that's all the Nets can do at this point. So there's no cost to it. So I'm going to talk about some quote negatives of Paul Millsap, but really, what are the negatives? He if you look at all the available options that were out there as of this week. Now this is a meme, and I understand, and I apologize to everyone who listens to the show. I think if you listen to the show for a long time, you know how I'm going to feel. There was another big man that was signed by another Eastern Conference team this week. That big man is named Taco Fall, and I would have loved Taco Fall
your
as a
childlike wonder of just tall men.
I think it was because when I was young, I did see Yao Ming play basketball, and that just forever changed my life. Of tall man, that good. That's how I. But I'm kidding about Taco Fall, obviously. Even though I don't know if you saw this, Jared Allen tweeted out StatMuse. StatMuse had a lineup of the Cavs could trot out a lineup of Jared Allen, Lauri Markkanen, Kevin Love, Taco Fall, and Evan Mobley. And Jared Allen retweeted that and said 82-0, which I agree with. Yeah. I would love to see it. Yeah. Let's have fun in the NBA. Paul Millsap. There's no negatives. I'm going to say some negatives, some worrying signs if we're thinking that he's going to be this.
That's our brand, really, is to go right into the, the misgivings.
Positives, right? This guy's been on the Denver Nuggets for many, many seasons, a constant contender in the league. He started for many of those years. Now, last year, he started about half the games. His numbers in terms of minutes per game declined over the season a bit, but he still averaged about 21 minutes a game. I know you love per 36.
Huge.
But his averages were basically the same per 36 last year as they have been in previous years. He's just a low volume bro right now. But 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 34% from 3. In my mind, there was a time when it was maybe thought, oh, maybe the Nets are going to get PJ Tucker, right? Mm-hmm. Because PJ Tucker went to Texas, even though, him and Kevin Durant yelled at each other a bunch in the series. It looked like they could maybe still, it was that kind of relationship. They're just they like to yell at each other.
Sure.
PJ Tucker obviously went to Miami, and I think he's getting $10 million a year, which is way too much money. Paul Millsap is basically less switchy, but way better offensive player PJ Tucker, in my mind.
Interesting.
PJ Tucker was horrific offensively even though he was with Milwaukee when they won the title. He contributed nothing. I mean, particularly if we go back to the Brooklyn Nets series, PJ Tucker did nothing, but defensively, Tucker's more of a pest.
I think of him more as Marcus Smart without offense, or because I just feel
PJ Tucker.
Yeah, PJ Tucker. I just feel like
that sounds about right too.
PJ Tucker trends more guarding. He guards guards.
He's a bulkier dude.
I get it. You can switch, and that's what makes him special.
He played center for the Rockets when he was on the Rockets.
I mean, I get it. That's what makes him that's the one thing that makes him dynamic, is that he's a switchable defender. But yeah, I mean, Paul Millsap undeniably has especially going back over the years, has had a lot more. He's got a lot more in the bag than a PJ Tucker. And even still, he's got his post playmaking is pretty good. He can still operate. He's throwing dimes. I will say the one thing, and if we're kind of looking at for just it's a podcast. We do a little good and bad. He hasn't. he's missed a fair bit of games. That's one thing that I'm a little bit got an eye for, just looking out. But still, his general playmaking stuff. He doesn't play as much, but back in the day, he was when he was with the Hawks. He's sort of one of those kind of emerging playmaking fours that you see in a lot of, but you don't get enough of.
Yeah, and he seems like he's all the buzz about him personally, great locker room guy, good leader. Marks had even talked about, I think it was a couple of weeks ago in a press conference, about how the Nets needed to address rebounding. Paul Millsap can do that for you, right? He can be playing on bench units. And the thing I kind of love about it, if you're really thinking about it, so we're not going to do projected starting lineups necessarily right now.
Okay.
I think Blake is the starting center for this team. But Paul Millsap in a bench role with James Harden running the show.
It's pretty slick.
He's Paul Millsap is the perfect sort of bigger guy. He's not a pick and roll center, but he can stretch the floor enough.
He's pick and pop.
Yeah. And there's enough there, and it's actually if you look up that lineup, let's say James Harden's out there, Claxton's probably the center and pick and roll options with that. You have Paul Millsap on the wing. Maybe Cam Thomas is out there shooting the ball at this point. Patty Mills is out there. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of shooting in the Nets bench lineup. Again, not that Paul Millsap's an amazing shooter, but he's league average, and he can do it. And I think particularly now this year, he's going to get amazing number of open looks. You're right. I think you said at the beginning, and it's 100% right. The totality of the Nets offseason has been a masterpiece by Sean Marks. I mean, this is what happens when you're the upper crust of the NBA. You get more and more. It's if you're a celebrity and you go to the Oscars and they give you free swag, they give you bags with Beats headphones and foot massagers and exfoliators.
Yeah.
They just give it to you for free because you're famous. The Nets are of that level now. They're so famous, they just get free stuff. They don't have to pay for anything.
Getting free exfoliation, no extra charge. I will say now, looking back through his recent years, just trying to pick, there's actually 2019, 2020 was a pretty sick year for him, shooting percentage wise and just overall production wise. He's not far removed at all from being from shooting 43% from three, almost 50 from two, and starting 48 games out of the 51 that he played. It's real replace Jeff Green style nummies right there.
Yeah, that's what's funny is they basically traded Jeff Green to the Nuggets and got back Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
You'd rather have, I'll ask you the question. Would you rather have Jeff Green or Paul Millsap?
It's a sort of devil situation. We love friend of the show, Heve Converde. If Paul Millsap wants to come on the show, then that might even things out a little bit in my mind. But as of yet, I got to go Heve Converde. Plus, also, he's the only guy that has ever dunked the basketball for the Nets in the last 6 years. So that's not true. That's factually not true. But you know what I mean. He was one of the only dunkers, real dunkers.
Can I do a quick diversion for a sec?
If you have to, if you must.
So we're a very powerful podcast, right?
Incredibly.
Like we have a lot of sway.
Coastal elite.
We're constantly in touch with the Nets because they just want their players to be on our show, and we kind of say now's not the right time. We'd rather have.
We want to stay objective, honestly.
Yeah. We'll take Timothy Cabarro, but we don't want Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's kind of the conversations that we have. Beyond the big three, I'm sure we would want Harden, Durant, or Irving. What are your top three non-big three Nets that you'd want to bring on the show? I mean, I think Blake's number one at this point.
Blake's a good one. That's a good one. Did you see the thing where they were at the tennis? I don't know, was it U.S. Open? I don't know tennis. And it
was the U.S. Open.
Off to a good start. And the announcer, they pan over to Blake and Joe Harris, and they acknowledge Blake Griffin, but not Joe Harris.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
That's so on brand for Joe Harris.
It's perfect. Really fits the brand.
They probably just thought Joe Harris was a ball boy.
I want to get Joe Harris on here. I got to see if there's something under the hood.
What's in there?
If there's some
does he love Bravo? Does he watch?
I'm waiting for the other the foot to drop. If there's a Dennis Rodman subconscious character that's gonna burst through one day and he'll just be a wild character.
I mean, Joe should come in with the leopard print hair. I think that people would. I don't know what people would even do. I think people would
really enjoy that. This is.
You know that they're making a Dennis Rodman movie, but only about that 48-hour period, in the finals where he went to Vegas and went on a bender for 48
They
days.
did make the Dennis Rodman story. Have you seen that movie?
No.
It's a strange, almost feels like made for TV movie. It might actually have been a made for TV movie. It's a real thing. It's a feature length. I can't. I'll look it up. Well, you keep talking. I'll look it up.
So I'm excited about that film. I guess I would go Blake. I would go Joe just because of the longevity of him being with the Nets at this point. And I think we could psychologically get him to a place where he can forget about the playoffs. I'm really confident in my abilities. My wife is becoming sort of what's called a life coach, but she's not really teaching people about their life, but there's a lot of techniques that I'm learning from her that I feel could be applied. It's all about what you can do going forward. So Joe Harris is number two. Honestly, number three at this point, it's really tough. Cam Thomas, I almost just want to have a conversation with, to be you have this insane ability. You're gifted. You worked so hard to get here. I would have the conversation with him, just be just think about passing the ball a little bit more. We're just standing and shooting. Just think about it a little bit more. Think of me as your future self coming back into the past to tell you hey, if you just shoot open threes, you're going to make $200 million in your career.
I'm just coming back from looking at the Dennis Rodman story, IMDb, and so you're talking to Cam Thomas. Good. I was just coming back. There's nobody famous, but it was from 1998, starring your boy.
Wow, 98. They had the Dennis Rodman movie.
Dwayne Adway, director Jean de Saganzak.
Beautiful.
Saganzak. But yeah. Anyways, go check that out. That's a journey. That's a ride.
So back to, let's do this. We'll take a quick break. Coming back, more Paul Millsap.
Okay.
And I think the ripple effect on the lineup, plus who may not be a net because Paul Millsap is a net.
Good.
And we're back, Brian.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So just to like put a bow on Paul Millsap,
right?
Like if you said what was the Nets' biggest weakness, I would say it's an actual center, which Paul Millsap is not, but then rebounding, dedicated rebounders. Paul Millsap is about as good as you're going to do for an experienced big role player who has been in playoff series before and can shoot some, has ability to do a little bit more on the floor than just shoot corner threes like he does, have sort of more of a mid-range game and post game that he can rely on a little bit. Awesome move. But this news followed some other news that we had this week. This from Shams Charania and Alex Schiffer was that DeAndre Jordan and the Nets are working towards parting ways via a contract buyout. Jordan is increasingly unlikely to be part of the organization moving forward, but the sides have not made a final decision. Jordan, and then they note, Jordan did not appear in the Nets' last 16 games of the season and playoffs. Do you think Paul Millsap signing here means that like we're going to post this pod at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday? Do you think like we're going to find out pretty quickly that DeAndre Jordan's not going to be part of this team?
I mean,
everything seems two separate things.
That's an interesting way of framing it. I mean, now that I think about it, the timing of it seems pretty suspicious. But especially since there was rumblings of general non-interest in Paul Millsap throughout the course of the offseason. Just some rumblings about this. But yeah, so the timing of that is a little suspicious. Knowing our podcast and the hex that has been put upon it, I wouldn't be surprised if not seconds after we posted it, DeAndre Jordan gets bought out, as is tradition around here. But yeah, I guess to think of it as a 1-to-1, it's usually not a good way to do that, but it seems pretty timely, I guess, the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is probably, well, one, they're like somewhat similar positions. Obviously, DeAndre is more of a true center and Millsap's more of a 4. Mm-hmm. But here is the Nets lineup. Okay. Just it's stuffed. At guard, it's Kyrie Harden, Javon Carter, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown, Cam Thomas. Okay, that had 6 players at guard that probably all deserve to play. If this was a hockey team, they'd have 3 lines already of forwards. Going to forward, Joe Harris, KD, James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry, Kessler Edwards, and Alize Johnson. Now that kind of is thin, but there's at least 4 of those guys are going to play.
There's also some riffraff with Alize Johnson's guarantees and things like that as well, which is whatever. Yeah.
And then the bigs, I put Claxton, Blake, Millsap, Day'Ron Sharpe, and DeAndre Jordan. Now, obviously, Blake can play the 4, Millsap could play the 4, Claxton could even play the 4 if if you wanted to, and put him next to Day'Ron Sharpe for some minutes or whatever. But then DeAndre Jordan, that's 5 bigs that are on this team. That is an overstuffed roster. They didn't play DeAndre Jordan at the end of last year. We have reports that going back to the draft that they were trying to dump him for a first-round pick. I mean, I don't know what would turn the tide to bring DeAndre back, unless if DeAndre was simply like if he knows that if he gets put out there in free agency, he's not going to be picked up at all. Right. If he'd rather just like get free Brooklyn Nets gear and continue to cash those checks as opposed to like starting a cooking show for Bleacher Report. Like, I think those are the two. So Shams Charania had reported that the Lakers may be interested in DeAndre Jordan.
It's very Lakers thing to do.
Please have him at this point.
Yeah. I saw there's somebody made a YouTube video about that, and the Lakers fandom are stoked on bigs that are veteran bigs who used to be bouncy just because of the JaVale McGee years, I guess. They just seem to really like those types of players. Obviously, Drummond and Dwight Howard. They were stoked on it. They were like, "Dude, game over. We got DeAndre Jordan." I was like, "You guys, I don't know."
Yeah, there's a lack of knowledge there about what's. I mean, yeah. I'll admit it. And I still kind of think this. I don't disagree with this. I think if DeAndre was on this team, they should play him and give him some minutes. I don't think he's such a negative that if he's on the floor, he's hurting the team to that degree.
I'll say,
but it's obvious they just don't want him here. At this point,
something must have curdled. I think they obviously I think they handled it pretty well, because the curdling doesn't seem to have leaked, anywhere, that there's like some real truly like bad blood. But buyout situations generally beget that kind of curdling that we're talking about. Like the Ben Simmons situation, as a weird kind of proxy, is like that's curdling gone very wrong. Like Ben Simmons has maybe overplayed his hand here, Mike. I'm not maybe drawing a direct comparison, but
there's some produce, whether it's an onion, a potato, or a banana, where if you put it with other produce,
right,
as it's aging,
it saves it. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? Is it a banana?
I forget what it is. Yeah, I mean the one thing is like if you keep the seed in the avocado, that like magically keeps it from going bad. That kind of thing. Yeah,
right. Yeah. But Ben Simmons is a
seedless avocado,
a pitless avocado,
That's
and
right.
he's just sucking the life out of the Sixers at this point. Except they're denying that it's going to be the case. But
he must think that he's going to Golden State or Miami to be acting this way. Like you must really think that somebody cool and competitive is going to want to trade some for him, which I don't know that that's going to be the case. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I know that this there's no trade I think that really makes sense in this way. Like I'm interested, and no one's mentioned this. I'm interested like Dallas Mavericks getting Ben Simmons, because Simmons with like Luka Doncic, I know Luka probably just needs shooters around him. But if you're running like a pick and roll situation with Luka and Ben Simmons plays the defense, Luka plays the offense. Dallas needs like another star. And I don't know if it's Simmons. I don't know. There's something to me that's interesting about that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Can I just say, though, I'm enjoying the fact that the 76ers, the team that all last season Nets fans, we were all focused on, right? Embiid stoppers and all that stuff. Yeah. That was the team that was constantly thrown in the Nets' face of like, when the Nets play the 76ers, they're going to lose. I mean, if whatever they get back for Ben Simmons, it won't worry me unless if it's Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal. And they're not going to get those guys back for Ben Simmons at this point. Should we even spend any energy on DeAndre Jordan on the Nets? Like, do you think there's a remote possibility that he's a part of this team?
Like to keep him here?
Yeah. Do you think he's going to be here at all? Like, do you think? Because like, there's a couple ways this could go. They could trade him somehow. They could find a team to take on his contract, and the Nets give up draft picks or young players. They buy him out for a little bit less money, or they just pay him to go away, like fully paid. Be like, we won't even take back any money. Just please leave our team. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to play for the team now.
I think once the buyout stuff leaks, it gets really hard to like. People are just like, I'll just wait. I don't need to go to go crazy and get ahead of the DeAndre Jordan waiver wire market. Like, I'll just wait for that to happen. So I do think it's destined for that. I mean, although it's weird that you hear about like they're looking to buy out and then it doesn't happen sort of right away. But again, we haven't posted the podcast yet, so only then will that happen.
Yeah. Who's leaking that? Right? Is that simply like, does that come from the net side because they basically want to see if anyone jumps and gives them a call and be like, hey, we'll take DeAndre off your hands for this, right? Or is it coming from DeAndre's side to see if teams start calling them and saying, hey, if DeAndre gets bought out, we'd be interested in bringing him in, right? I guess it's probably more realistic from DeAndre's side for leaking that at this point, because they want to know if he has a home in the NBA.
Yeah.
Can I apologize for something?
Oh, Mike, what'd you do? Michael?
June 30th, 2019?
Michael.
When was it? Yeah, 2019. When Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan signed with the Nets. Clean sweep.
Clean sweep.
I defended, I think you did too, but I'll just put myself in this, defended that DeAndre Jordan contract pretty fiercely. I remember thinking, because at the time they were like, 4-year, $40 million contract.
Yeah.
That's a debacle. A lot of people were saying that. And I was saying at the time, I was like, I don't know. I mean, can't he be a decent center still in the NBA?
Defend to the death, like you're talking about. I'm not sure. Go middle of the road on, which is much more likely for us. I think we went middle of the road on it. If I can remember. Yeah.
I guess defending it at all felt like defending it to the death because so many people were negative about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that was the tax that was needed to get
it's Kevin Durant tax. Yeah.
And you would do that.
Who's the better friend? Because they don't seem all that like for them to be like the three amigos. Is like I mean, Kevin and Kyrie seem tight, but DeAndre never like I don't know. He was it's like yeah, and I'm trying to think of like a three
like the Van Halen brothers.
Sure,
I guess
sure.
There were two of them, right?
What's really embarrassing is the thing that came to mind, and I didn't immediately say it, but this is the sweetest thing, the film The Sweetest Thing, starring Cameron Diaz and Christina Applegate, and then also Selma Blair, who's very conspicuously the third friend who's not as close as the other two. They don't go on the road trip with the third friend.
To bring in more, it's Sex and the City.
Yeah,
where
sure
Kim Cattrall's not, she's not coming back for the reboot.
She's not.
And DeAndre Jordan is kind of a Kim Cattrall. If we're picking, okay, killer comparison. I know you probably did. You watch Sex and the City?
Of course, yeah.
Okay,
quite a lot.
Killer comparison. Nets and Sex and the City characters.
Have you seen? That's a great one. Have you seen? Just to sorry to interrupt. The Kim Cattrall YouTube video of like it's like HBO doing a behind the scenes like looking at her house, and she's like scatting with her like boyfriend / maybe domestic partner or husband, I can't tell, is like playing an upright bass and she's scatting on top of it. Have you seen this? I'll somehow get this into the YouTube video or something because it's truly it'll shed so much light on why things aren't working out with Kim Cattrall because it's massively embarrassing. Yeah. But
I'm gonna follow through.
But a killer comparison on
obviously Kevin Durant's Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, but like really, she's probably more of a Kyrie.
The thing is, personality-wise, James Harden is the Samantha. I feel like that's that's sort of because he's definitely not Charlotte. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Joe Harris is Charlotte.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously.
This is good. This is staying.
And Cynthia Nixon, I forget what Miranda.
Steve who like poops his pants. Steve.
Who?
Skid mark.
Steve is Steve Nash. No.
That character. Anyway, sorry. I don't know why that's so funny. But
yeah, the men in that show are always phenomenal.
Skid marks. Shoot. Okay, sorry. Back in. Sorry. We'll wait at that.
So no, we're not. Excited for the reboot. Sex and the City, and it'll probably come out in tandem with the NBA season.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something I don't fully understand quite yet? So Shams also had a report yesterday that I'll just read this story. This is on The Athletic, and if you want to get behind that paywall, go to theathletic.com/glueguys.
Now's your chance.
But I'm just going to read it. And I don't fully understand what's happening. Okay. Unvaccinated NBA players on the Nets, Knicks, and Warriors will not be allowed to play home games due to COVID-19 policies set forth by local governments, sources told The Athletic on Wednesday. The local requirements in the city and San Francisco will bar unvaccinated players from entering their home arenas or facilities for game or team events unless they have approved medical or religious exemption. However, visiting players can play because they don't live in New York City or San Francisco. So I don't fully understand. And it's not like I'm trying to read Shams' story correctly. Whether that's coming from the NBA or the local governments, and I know you maybe don't have that answer either, but like that seems like a fairly big deal. That.
My understanding was it was the local governments. I don't know if that was. I mean, we should probably be more careful about that. Insert that.
No, I know. That's why I read directly because I don't know. Mm-hmm. That seems like a very big deal, right? Because I'm going to guarantee at least one net is not vaccinated.
Which one? Name
I'm not gonna. We're not gonna play vaccine roulette here, okay? But I'm just gonna guess, just knowing humanity at this point.
I think I read that it was 90% of NBA players are vaccinated. 99% of WNBA players, which always
WNBA players are always way smarter than pretty much any professional.
So 1 out of 10 is gonna not be on there. There's a 15-man roster. There's a good chance there's one hanging Chad. Is that what they call that, a hanging Chad?
That a political term.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should watch Recount. Have you seen the movie Recount?
No.
It's I think Kevin Spacey's in it, which is always like, oh my god. But it's an HBO movie guy? About. Yeah. I've never been, frankly.
Right. Good.
House of Cards is a disaster. I don't know. Did you watch House of Cards? Because that show's like
any like political drama. I don't know. The Sorkin stuff just never did it for me.
Well, yeah. So I watched West Wing when I was younger.
Yeah.
Before I realized how awful politics were, so I was like, oh, West Wing's great. Now I can't watch it because I'm like, this is bullshit. This people don't actually.
You're hardened. No, you're
care about
you're
America.
Yeah.
Just trying to, build bridges. That's all I'm trying to do over here. Just trying to make the people happy.
You're an absolute saint.
So all I'm saying is let's keep an eye on this unvaccinated NBA players thing, because I think we can all observe that people feel pretty passionately about vaccines, one way or the other. And it's likely if you haven't got vaccinated at this point, you may be standing your ground a little bit on that issue.
Yeah. Yeah, you're dug in.
Like your boy, Joe Rogan.
I thought you were about to say Joe Harris. That's that's him. That's the one. Well, curveball.
Well, no, but he didn't have a mask on at the U.S. Open, so I don't think. Okay. Well, that's anything else that you want to hit about the Nets? I mean, we're sitting here in the dead of September, where I think we're like 50 days away from basketball beginning or something like
days. That. It's amazing how you get pretty burnt out by the end of the season, especially after a heartbreaking, playoff run or whatever, and you're like, it might be good to have. And it took me, I would say, 2 weeks before I was back watching feature-length film YouTube mixes of Kevin Durant. That's it. Really, I'm just back. I'm really back at it, and I'm horny for more basketball. Mike,
can I just say there is actually potentially more breaking news?
Oh my gosh, is it the DeAndre Jordan?
So no, not. It's another big man. 7-time NBA All-Star LaMarcus Aldridge has been cleared to play again after passing all the necessary tests. The Nets are the leaders to sign.
Oh my gosh,
Aldridge. So not official yet, but
it's real who's who now. My gosh.
So oh my God, can we take let's think about this?
A lot of weapons,
second.
Just a real all the way through 15-man deep, just weapons, just an armory.
If LaMarcus Aldridge does in fact sign with the Nets, maybe Paul Millsap doesn't actually even sign, because all that it said was, because I will give Shams cover here. His agent told Shams that he was signing. Paul Millsap was out of the team, but there's no way you can sign both LaMarcus Aldridge and Paul Millsap, can you? Because here's the roster. Let me do it again. Yeah. Here it is. Okay. Here who is definitely, I think, on the roster: Kyrie, Harden, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown, Cam Thomas. That's 5. Joe Harris, KD, 7. James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry is 9. I'm cutting people out as I go. Claxton's 10, Blake's 11, Millsap's 12, Day'Ron Sharp's 13, DeAndre Jordan's still technically on the roster, but I'm not going to count him. So then LaMarcus Aldridge is 14 people. People I did not mention were Javon Carter, Kessler Edwards, Alize Johnson, and DeAndre Jordan. I didn't count him. So that goes up to 18 people that Alize is probably going to get cut.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That now his non-guarantee looks a lot more suspicious.
Not guaranteed.
Yeah, it looks a lot less guaranteed.
So the bigs would be, if LaMarcus Aldridge does in fact sign with the Nets, Claxton, Blake, Millsap, Day'Ron Sharp, and LaMarcus Aldridge if DeAndre Jordan is bought out. Let me ask you this: do you want LaMarcus? If he's healthy, do you actually want him?
So I mean, I've been on the cold water side of the
him.
LaMarcus Aldridge thing, but
obviously
I like
the longest pause. The guy is fighting to come back into the NBA, Brian. His career was cut short, and you are just like, I don't really want him.
What I'm trying to say, I've been
sweating
This was my mea culpa, Mike. You've ruined my mea culpa. This is I've been on the side of having thrown cold water on the LaMarcus Aldridge spirit, but as a 15th man on your roster, having LaMarcus Aldridge,
what is he, a gremlin? You're throwing water on him? Come on.
Does that make them? It's like makes them better, right? That makes them more powerful. No, that makes them evil. That makes them. It
makes them. Yeah, it makes them more powerful for sure. Yeah.
I'm making him more powerful here. Well, as a 15th man, it's amazing. I mean, it's honestly just amazing. If that actually happens, like, it's stupid. It's great. I just hope it does happen our cup is truly, I've said it before, but it's the cup runneth over big time here. As the 15th man, that's like pretty special. That's pretty spectacular. And just like having that veteran, like that locker room is going to be so fun. Like just dudes with that amount of experience. You know,
no, they're all just going to be checking their 401ks. They're so old.
Yeah, that's true.
All those
they're
guys
just talking about tax. Once you get, I'm sure you've had this experience now. Guys just like getting around talking about taxes. I'm like, oh no, this has happened. This is happening. This is you.
Guess who likes that conversation?
Yeah, I can tell.
Guess who loves
that twinkle
who loves
in your
the Democratic plan of giving me more tax money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. The Nets almost have a situation, because I think a lot of like sort of the injury management rest, like the Nets are going to continue to do that thing. Like the Nets were one of the most aggressive teams in, if someone gets injured, they'll keep them out for even longer than you would think, just because they don't want to risk re-injury. And obviously it still happened with Harden. So it's never perfect. But if you add LaMarcus Aldridge to the team, you could basically do a thing where like Millsap is like if you never want guys to play back-to-backs, like Millsap's your A big man and LaMarcus Aldridge is your B on back-to-backs. You could have like two totally different lineups, your A team and your B team throughout the season, essentially. Like they're going to be able to Nick Claxton will not get overworked, and I think that's probably the best thing, because I'm still concerned about, like, if Nick Claxton had to go into the season playing 30 minutes a game, I'm still worried about, with his age and his history of injury, that he would just like break down at some point and tear an ACL. Where now it's like, hey, Nick Claxton's this fun weapon that they can deploy at certain moments, and then get 15 minutes from LaMarcus Aldridge, 15 minutes from Millsap. Blake's playing center at times. KD never has to play the 5 during the regular season. That is, I mean, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous if LaMarcus Aldridge.
Well, let's get this pod in the can so that we can find out about DeAndre Jordan getting cut or get bought out. What do you say?
Well, let me just do a quick Google.
Okay.
A quick refresh of the Twitter, just to make sure that I haven't missed anything just yet. But nothing yet. So no DeAndre Jordan news. I do think it's interesting. Oh, and Shams is reporting this, and we didn't really talk about lineup construction fully yet, but Shams has been saying that Millsap will have an opportunity to start along Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, here and there. Yeah.
I'm not going to debate it. I'm not going to.
I mean, we did
care so much about a starting lineup.
We did 30 starting lineups last year, so I mean, what is that? What is that?
Yeah,
worth?
we all are. Everyone's going to start.
Yeah.
Can I just do this one thing?
Okay.
So let's just say it's Kyrie, Harden, Joe Harris, KD, and Blake are starting. That means the bench, just pure bench unit, was Patty Mills and Bruce Brown. Probably like James Johnson and Bembry. But really, it's probably James Johnson and like Claxton and Millsap, right? Like you would go one of those, like Millsap would play the 4. That's an amazing, for a team this good at the top, that's an amazing middle class. That's like, and I'm going to compare this to something. It's like the Washington, D.C. area. You know, the thing about the Washington, D.C. area is that the government, there's so many people that work in government that live in this area and in lobbying, is that it's almost a recession-proof area because no matter what's happening out there in the world, the government's humming along.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's a swamp that can't be drained. There's a lot of, too many political comments today, right?
There was that one guy on our iTunes reviews who told us that the one guy can't stop talking about Trump, and that's why he gave us a 1-star review, which was aimed at you. I think you dropped his name like maybe 5 times in 4 years, but
I really try not to talk about him.
That was enough. That was enough for that guy. Yeah.
Try not to. Yeah. That's just because I don't.
Sure.
I don't like to. So it's an amazing upper crust top end, we have the $15-20 million homes on that certain street, and we also have a lot of $2.5 million homes with the pool in the back, and everyone's happy. And these are 30-year homes.
Yep.
You know, it's a home where, you know, your kids can grow up in.
It's a great neighborhood.
I mean, it's a real
good schools.
It's Montclair.
It's nice. Hey, great town. Great town.
But are the schools as good in Montclair as they are in like some other places? You know, like Summit,
I think they're
Chatham. Okay. Sorry, I apologize for everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We are the Glue Guys. We'll be in your ears all summer long as we're doing this. We're going to do our cocktails episode. Please send in, if you're still listening, please send in your cocktail ideas for us. What we do is Brian and I come up with cocktails based off of Nets players. So one year, Brian, didn't you do like a Doom? You got like...
It was a Diablo 2 CD-ROM that was the coaster for the Jared Allen beverage, which also had a gummy bear a gummy worm that was like sort of like in the mezcal
or whatever. It was a sour gummy worm, I'm pretty sure, because it
leached into the
So one year I did with KD, I did like a Greek liqueur because of Achilles.
Oh yeah, that one was rough. The anise flavor thing. Oh my gosh, that's really.
So this year I would really love it if, and I'll solicit more of this. If we email netspot@gmail or tweet at us ideas, keep them somewhat reasonable. I'm gonna try to drink one of our fans' concoctions.
Multiple. We got to make a day of it.
Yeah, a whole day.
Back to our virgin pina coladas. Let's get out of here.
Where can they find us everywhere else?
Twitter,
at BK Discord,
Netsdaily,
TikTok.
Discord. It's in the description in the YouTube. If you're on YouTube, check that out. Just pop that link into your browser, and it'll take you to where we're all hanging out. It's the access point. You know, Mike's going to be on there too. We're going to be playing fantasy this year, so get in there. Yeah, and thanks. More news too. And DeAndre Jordan's about to get bought out. So, but we can't break that now.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.